viewers, let's begin what's trending in Guinea-Bissau, where military officers have seized control of the government after President Umaru Embalo and his main opponent, Fernando Diaz, both declared themselves winners of the presidential election before official results were released. The military suspended the electoral process, closed all borders, and shut down airports, resulting in election observers being trapped in the country. Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan, is one of 36 high-profile observers from the African Union, ECOWAS, and the West African Elders Forum, currently trapped in the country following the military coup d'etat.
I am hopeful at the moment. We have always dreamt of a peaceful Guinea-Bissau, full of love and harmony. I ask my Guinean brothers to remain calm, because whatever happens, it will be for the benefit of all Guineans.
All right, Dr. Abati, your boss is involved. I'll take some reactions before I come to you. Alien wrote on X, saying Africans have a special way of sending a message to the world that they are not mature for a democratic governing system. It seems alien to our people, and I think we need to admit it at least. Another ex-user wrote, this calls for an immediate intervention by the Nigerian government to begin a rapid process of evacuating the former president of Nigeria from Guinea-Bissau. Finally, Okocha wrote on X, I will want to believe that he's safe. This foreign observation business is no longer a joke in these African countries. If you go to rubber stamp corrupted elections, you may never come back in the future. Good luck to good luck. Good luck to good luck. I thought that was, this is an awkward situation for Nigeria's former president, Goodluck Jonathan. I mean, he went to Guinea-Bissau to ensure democratic elections only to get caught in a military coup. ECOWAS and the AU have condemned the coup. The question now is, how will they secure the release of their own observers while simultaneously demanding restoration of constitutional order? This is, I mean, really an awkward situation.
Well, President Jonathan is chairman of the West African Elders Forum, and he founded that body, and along with other African leaders, they monitor the electoral process, the democratic process, not just in West Africa, but also across Africa. And, he has done a lot in that regard since he left office. Now, in Guinea-Bissau, we have a situation whereby President Jonathan and other international observers who were waiting for the announcement of the presidential and parliamentary elections that took place on Sunday. The announcement was to be made on Thursday this week. That's tomorrow. And then, or is it today? It's today.
Thursday. Today.
Yes, Thursday is today. And then you have this situation at about 1900 GMT yesterday, whereby a group that calls itself the High Command of the Presidential Order, or what do they say? The High Military Command for the Restoration of Order, led by General Dennis Nkanha, who incidentally is the head of the military household in the presidential palace. Then what have they done now? They've suspended the democratic process. They have ordered a curfew. They have closed all borders, land, sea, and air. They've detained the president, Umaru Sissoco Embalo, the chief of the army, his deputy, the prime minister, and also the other second leading candidate, Fernando Diaz. Now, what is the cause of this problem? Sissoco Embalo, 53-year-old, became president of Guinea-Bissau in 2019. His term was supposed to end February 2025. He had even said he was not going to run again. But now we were told he wants to realize the ambition of being the first democratically elected person to win 2 consecutive terms. Yeah. Since Portugal became independent from, since Guinea-Bissau became independent from Portugal in 1974. So he claims victory, ahead of the announcement of the result. Fernando Diaz also claims victory. You have the Prime Minister, Pereira, supporting Fernando Diaz. And that's why, these military soldiers have moved in. Now, we have seen since 2021, democracy being in retreat. Beyond when we were celebrating the consolidation of democracy in Africa, we have now...
It shouldn't be. Meanwhile, the Senate has resolved to amend Nigeria's Anti-Terrorism Act to prescribe a death penalty without the option of a fine for all kidnapping offenses, removing all judicial discretion in sentencing. The resolution followed a motion by Senator Abdul Ningi, who urged the Senate to classify kidnapping as a terrorist offense that would automatically attract a death penalty, irrespective of circumstances or jurisdiction.
Kidnapping now pays more than oil. Kidnapping pays more than sitting as a senator or sitting in the villa. And therefore, as lawmakers, what do we need to do? We now look at kidnapping and say we must amend our laws to say kidnapping is a terrorist act and must therefore be treated as such and must therefore carry the death penalty.
Well, the Senate witnessed a heated debate on Wednesday as Abia South Senator Ehinaya Abaribe berated the government's failure to hold the military accountable for withdrawing troops from the Kebbi school just before the abduction of 24 students. Abaribe insisted that real governance requires confronting the uncomfortable truth of who ordered the pullout and demanded accountability. Let's take a look.
Governor of Kebbi said that somebody ordered troops out and people were kidnapped. Till today, nobody in Nigeria knows what happened. And no question has been asked. And we are sitting down here as a parliament, and we turn and we talk. Yet, somebody is responsible. If I'm the commander-in-chief, I will call the army commander in that place and the head of the army and say, if you don't get me the head of this person, who withdrew the troops to put all these children in jeopardy? Then you make an example of him. That is how a country is run. A country is not run on pacification. A country is run on confronting issues. I rest my case.
That was a powerful speech. Well, Akpabio has directed Senate Leader Kwemi Bamidele to urgently prepare an amendment to the Anti-Terrorism Act to ensure that once kidnapping is established in court, a death sentence must follow. Currently, Nigeria's Anti-Terrorism Act only prescribes death penalty for kidnapping when the offense results in the death of a victim. But here is the problem. Despite the frequency of attacks, many kidnapping cases end up with victims being released and no arrests. So the real question also follows. How do you execute kidnappers when there are no arrests? Vimbai, we know that, President Bola Tinubu has declared a nationwide security emergency, directing the Nigerian police and armed forces to recruit more personnel to deal with insecurity across the country. Well, in a statement posted on the president's X page, Tinubu called on the police to hire 20,000 new officers to bring the planned intake to 50,000. The president commended agencies for their work in rescuing these schoolgirls in Kebbi and church worshippers in Kwara State, vowing to sustain his administration's efforts to bring back the students still being held in Niger State. I mean, this is also a commendable effort by the president at this moment, by ordering for more boots on ground. I'd like your thoughts on the Senate's push for, the death penalty for kidnapped victims at this point. Like I asked in the, my earlier question to you, Vimbai, we are not seeing arrests. I mean, we had 24 girls from Kebbi released. Then we had 38 from Kwara released, no arrests. Great upticks with the death penalty. The call for the death penalty will really follow through.
Well, you know, I want to begin by quoting the president himself in June of this year when he visited Benue State and he turned towards the police commissioner, or was it the IGP, and he said, "Why have there been no arrests?" And, you know, this is life. Life is somehow poetic because we now come back around and we ask ourselves the same questions now. Why have there been no arrests? Well, the Senate is rightfully arguing around punitive measures, advocating for higher punitive measures because, of course, the thinking is that if there's the highest level of punishment, then it should deter people from committing these crimes. Well, like you rightfully said, OG, number one, how do we execute people that have not been arrested? But beyond that, there are currently over 3,500 inmates on death row in Nigeria. Well, those are the numbers as of 2024, as published by the Nigerian Correctional Services. So ultimately, let's not be performative in our rage and in this moment that we are trying to see how to resolve this issue. Because, and I call it performative because we know that when it comes down to the crux, very few governors historically have been willing to sign off on death warrants. So in essence, all we're doing is we're crowding the prisons. I say that we go for practical solutions that are enforceable. The death penalty itself, especially in this modern time, beyond the broader global conversation around the death penalty itself, implementation in Nigeria, because of the moral optics and of course because of the political optics as well, has not been efficient. So I say let's focus on holding our forces accountable. Let's find out who ordered the withdrawal of those troops just before the Niger State pupils were abducted. Let's find out why there are so many lapses with regards to our military being able to enforce some of their missions. What happened? Who leaked the memo from the Brigadier General Sani that led to his execution? Those are the types of probes and leaks I think I would like the Senate to focus themselves on and to direct themselves. Because as we get more boots on the ground, as we follow the directives from the president,
who was kidnapped alongside his wife and daughter on October 28th, the diocese confirmed Archie's death on Wednesday night, describing it as a painful loss to the entire diocese. The priest was abducted when bandits broke into his house in Nisi community, Chinkun local government area of Kaduna State, near the Kaduna refinery. The kidnappers later contacted the family demanding 600 million naira ransom and released photos showing the couple in distressed conditions alongside other captives who appeared malnourished and tied in chains. His wife and daughter remain in the hands of the kidnappers, with the diocese calling for prayers for their release. Well, this is heartbreaking, Ayo. The priest has died in captivity after nearly a month of being held. His wife and daughter are still being held, probably traumatized by witnessing his death. I mean, this story, you know, broke my heart. This priest is from Ukwan. I mean, he went, you know, I mean, this is heartbreaking, really.
It's really heartbreaking, and when we hear stories like this, especially when we have the opportunity or when we see the pictures of these abductees or kidnapped victims in captivity, the hope and the prayer is that they will come out alive. So when we hear stories like this, it's stark, it's real. The number of unreported incidents like this where people who are kidnapped end up dying. And, you know, it goes back to that conversation around whether or not there ought to be a death penalty for kidnappers. And, you know, there have been arguments here and there, but when you look at the devastation of what kidnapping does to communities, to families, to people's lives, you can then understand why there's a call for very stiff punishment. In fact, the stiffest of all punishments, which is the death penalty. In addition to this, one of the girls that were kidnapped, the family, I think 3 girls, their dad apparently died of a heart attack, and this was revealed during one of our sister broadcasts here on Arise News, where the CAN chairman had said that as a result of heartbreak. I'm mentioning this story so that we can understand the depth and the seriousness of the challenge before us, and why it's been said again and again that we must show and demonstrate the fact that we are ready and willing to end kidnapping. Now, to a very important important story, and I think perhaps one of the most powerful voices that has arisen since this conversation around, attacks in the north, insecurity in Nigeria, and so on, is the voice of the Muslim Council of Elders. The best way to attack a lie is to present fact, is to present an alternate fact to the
wife. His daughter is still being held in captivity. We would want for them to use the same conversation or connection or whatever it is that they use to release our, kidnapped Kebbi girls, Kwara girls, to get him out, and the other people that are still being held in captivity for a long time. May his soul rest in peace. We pray for the release of his daughter and wife. In another development,